And welcome. Welcome if you're watching this online or watching this as a recorded session. If anyone does pop into this, feel free to put any questions into the comments or just pipe in and ask any questions. Otherwise, this will be a recorded session that we'll upload for you to view in your own time. Welcome to the second of our Hot Topic webinars. This is just a little pilot program that we're running just to see if there's any uptake. We have checked this out for voting to see what topics you would like to discuss. The last session we ran around the core skills of rugby. This session here will be around defense, which was the most voted on topic from our last session. So far, the next session, which will be next month, early and in June, I believe it's 11th to 12th. Just look online for those details, but that will likely be around coaching craft, unless, of course, lots of votes come in for something else. My name's Joseph Dutavaki. I'm the Game Development Manager for Auckland Rugby. I do hold the portfolio of coaching, but I would say that 90% of the knowledge that I hope to impart tonight has not been my own, as most coaches would attest to. It's from what they've learned through their time playing, what they've learned through their time coaching, and certainly for the most part, what they've learned off other great minds. So just acting here as a portal to share some of the key things that I picked up along the way. Some won't be anything new to a lot of you. For some who are looking into this for the first time or coming into coaching this for the first time, some of it may be new, but I do say that if you do want to reach out and ask any questions, you're more than welcome to. And let's jump into it. We'll look at principles of defense, which is what World Rugby teaches. We'll look at some other versions that have been taught out there by different key people in rugby. We'll also look at some of the coachable components in there and some tactical pieces that some people use. And then we'll finish off with a bit of a framework, which you can pick up yourself, or you can use it to sort of mold your own framework or your own philosophy around defense. And if there are any that do jump on and have any questions, more than happy to answer those as well. Why defense? Well, there's a couple of things. As well, firstly, I suppose it is half of our game of rugby. You're either attacking and looking to score points with the ball in hand, or you're trying to stop the other team, and we call that defense. We tend to think, or we tend to say that defense really gives you a good insight into the mindset of that team, gives you a good insight into the connection that a team has. A great coach called Richie Harris, a mentor of mine, he likes to say that when he watches a game, he can tell in the first 20 or so minutes if a team is really in the running for this game by the defense and the collisions that happen in that first 20 minutes, because it shows you the heart of that team. Obviously, that could probably be said for the last 20 minutes of the game as well, depending on the gas tank. Like mentioned, it's the other half of the coin, as most of you would probably attest to, that a lot of training is focused around training the attack side of our game, run, catch, pass, sidestep, clean out, breakdown, and looking at kicking, field position, line out, scrum strikes, and maybe, certainly, maybe a bit more now, and hopefully that is the case. We add in a little bit of defense in there as well. So understanding that defense is a big part of our game, and teams that do this really, really well go a really, really long way. And there are players, of course, where defense is sort of their thing. And obviously, I don't know who said this, but defense wins championships. There's the clarity versus detail balance also that we look at. So clarity being everyone being on the same page around what they're doing versus detail, and that's all this information that you can obviously have and tie in and drive into your players around what to do in different situations and give some awesome, good insight into the game around defense. But the balance, I suppose, is if not everyone is on the same page, not everyone has the same information or is able to retain the same information, that's where cracks start to happen. So balancing those things, clarity and detail. This last piece around philosophy and framework, it just allows learning and coaching to happen. So chunking information together. So if you had a philosophy or framework around your defense, can also be your North Star. So aligning teams between coaches and leaders and players around what we're doing. This is our framework, and that's what's going to guide us in terms of what we do in different situations. So may chunk that information. And of course, you do want to weave this into every part of your team's fabric. So, you got your defense, you got your defense turning into, turnover play into attack. You got your counter attack from defense. You got your kick strat. So all these things you need to weave in your leaders on defense. So you need to make sure that this is part of your philosophy, part of your framework, and woven into that. I did want to jump into a bit of a clip just so we can see how defense can win games. Obviously, it's not everything, but probably a good example is the Rugby World Cup, the most recent one in 2023 in the quarterfinal, where at the time world number one Ireland came up against the All Blacks, who, if you remember, were struggling just a little bit. So maybe have a look at, the difference between line speed and maybe drift defense and why they might be utilizing this or that. Have a look at barge, and if you're not sure what that is, I'll talk to that later on. And zero rucking and the different sort of policies around that. Have a look at the jackal policy, who's doing what and when and where, and maybe look at big or back in the game and how that affects the team physically and mentally. Okay, so I'll just click on this and hopefully this works and you're able to see it. Brilliant. Needs to go straight into an ad. Here we go. Do bear with me. This clip does start. There it is. Excellent piece of defense getting us into a World Cup semi-final. Now, I just want you to have a look at this here. So we're looking at, this is World Rugby's principles of play. They've got attack on the left-hand side and they've got defense on the right-hand side. So for those that have been on our level 1 or level 2 courses, you would have already seen this. But essentially starts with set piece, so where you contest possession. From there, you're trying to go forward, whether that's attack or defense, with the support of your teammates. If you're attacking, you're trying to maintain continuity. If you're defending, you're trying to disrupt that continuity, applying that pressure so you can regain possession and counterattack. Whereas attack's trying to maintain continuity so that they can apply pressure and score. So if you think of that as principles of play in terms of attack and defense, and if you look at, okay, if that's one way to structure looking at defense, what are the coachable components within that? So obviously within contesting possession, you look at defensively, how you disrupt a scrum, defensively trying to steal a line out, or in a kickoff, trying to win back possession, contesting that ball off the kickoff or dropouts. Going forward, we're both trying to win the gain line. Attack's trying to get there first or get over it, and defenders are trying to stop them from doing that or stopping them behind that gain line. If we're looking at support, obviously with attack, everything from attack shape to any policies that they might have. And defensively, you can also have your same shape and policies to back up how a team supports each other. Looking at continuity, obviously with the attack, if you're not going forward and going ahead and getting tackled, then you're probably going to score. But if you do get tackled, how do you continue the play? It's obviously the breakdown, and how do you get quick ball from that and put yourself in a good position and try to catch the defense behind the gain line. Defense obviously trying to do the same thing where they try and win those collisions so they can slow the play down or even disrupt that attack and even barge over that ruck ball and win that ball back. There might be the KBA there stands for keeping the ball alive. So if you're in attack, obviously you're trying to keep that ball alive. Breakdowns aren't guaranteed of quick ball. So there's offloads or passing of the ball or popping off the ground. And they're trying to keep that ball alive. And obviously defense, if you can win the collisions, or at least give attack a little bit of a spook by having a presence there on defense, then maybe not let that ball go. Or if we dominate that collision, we put ourselves in a better position to stop that continuity of play. Applying pressure obviously applies to the breakdown as well as the collisions, the KBA, just like we talked about. And obviously attack, if they can maintain continuity, they're applying pressure. So they're trying to find space, create space, whereas defenders, we're trying to close down space, trying to defend space and win that ball back. Then you start to go into your transition policies if you do regain possession. So that's one way to look at defense. That's how World Rugby structures their principles of defense. Another way is, and I don't know if this is true or not, but has been passed down onto us from wiser developers or coaches and educators gone by. But the rumor is this is what Sir Graham Henry used as his principles of defense. So the first one is preventing top quality ball. As per the principles of attack from World Rugby, their attack philosophy is first getting top quality balls. So getting really good, getting a line out ball at the top of the jump and, presenting it down to your halfback and getting good front foot ball. And obviously defensively, we're trying to stop that, whether that's a line out ball, ball, whether it's in the scrum or any of that possession. Then there's the explosive strike move. So obviously trying to get across that gain line, trying to win races to space, win collisions, get over the gain line. If you're not scoring from there, you certainly won that gain line. Obviously, if you're the defense, you're trying to stop that. So TQB, top quality ball, attacking wise, that's what you want. Defensive wise, you're trying to prevent that. ESM, explosive strike move, attack wise, that's what you want. Defense wise, that's what you're trying to prevent. And then, of course, there's the lightning quick ball, and this is around continuity and applying pressure. You got lightning quick ball. Obviously, at the top level, they're talking about 2-second ball. That's from when the carry goes to ground and presenting to when that ball is then delivered on for the player to carry on. Probably a little bit longer in clubland, maybe 4 seconds, 3 seconds if you're really quick. And obviously, if there's KBA, if there's offloads, it pops off the ground. You can probably get quicker ball than that. So LQB, you might have heard that used before. It's what they're trying to achieve in attack. And obviously, defensively, we're trying to prevent that. This part here is just a little bit of a deeper dive into ruck defense. So if there's a tackle there, there's a breakdown. So if you were looking at that rectangle there named ruck, so we say there's a ball carrier there. There's a tackler in there as well. There's maybe a jackler trying to come in there, and there's a cleaner, maybe 2 cleaners probably trying to stop that threat. So how this is not the only way, but this is certainly a common way that is taught and one way that you can use. And you can use this as a launch pad for your own sort of policies that you might be able to put in place. This might reaffirm for some of you that what you're doing is probably what works for you. For others, you might have a look at this and think maybe this could be a little bit old school for some, or you could say that you could take this and use it and apply it to your own space and make it fit your space better. But essentially, these are not the numbers of the players. These are just positions. So some people might say rock, hammer, boss, or rock 1-2, or any sort of term, or guard dogs, whatever you might use it. But for the purpose of this little presentation, we'll call the R's in here the rocks. So their roles beside the ruck, about a meter out to the side and a meter behind, giving them that little space, inviting them to come through, but being ready to dominate that collision if they do decide to come through this channel here. Really, it is to look after the number 9 if they decide to taxi and attack through that space there, or if the 9 decides to taxi a little bit wider and gives an inside ball, then the rock can look after that collision, that tackle, drive them back into the ruck and force them backwards. So that's the rock either side. I've got the 9 here The 9 at times can fill in as the blindside rock if the play was going from left to right. Um, but if in a ideal scenario you've got your rocks set there ready to go and ready to look after that space there. And the 9 in this instance is a communicator. So they'll look after straight behind the rock. They'll communicate the movements. They could actually drop back a little bit deeper so that they can actually have a better vision or visual of what's happening in front of them. They could even commentate what the attack is doing to talk them out of certain things. And I know there are some halfbacks that are really good in that space, but they could also look after the space or the kick space behind the defensive line in front of them if there's a grubber coming through, or even if there's a small half break or line break that they can be the first cover sweeper tackle in that position there. The number 1 on each side, so just outside the rock, about a meter away from them, is basically looking after the space in between the rock and the number 2 here who's probably got the first set of hands. Okay, that person there can look after the 9 if the 9 taxis wide and tries to hit someone out there, but tries to have a go, so one can take care of him. The rock doesn't want to look after that wide taxi of that halfback, because if the halfback does then release the ball to this to this attacker sitting in behind the halfback, then that attacker is potentially through over there. Especially if the 9 here is a little bit deeper and not paying attention, they'll at least get some gain line, which, as we talked about before, is what we're trying to stop. Or if the first set of hands gets the ball and gives the inside ball to any other attacker coming through, the number 1 can take care of that space. Number 2 here, we've got first set of hands. So whether that's the first 5 or whether it's the inside man or this wide pod shape over here, number 3 has got the inside man or the middle man or sometimes the B carrier over here. So that's who number 3's got. Number 4 has got the tip runner over here. You could also have a number 5, which will look after this person out the back who may be coming around the corner. Okay, so that's just a simple little policy that you might have around the ruck, just to make sure that they're not getting easy gains through the ruck, that you're looking after the space close to the ruck. Spacing is really important. Obviously, if these guys are a bit wider and there's only one attacker here, you might move these defenders here to align with the space or the people that they're looking after. And what happens outside of this rock 1, 2, 3, 4 really depends on the picture that's been given out there. And obviously, the further away from the rock they are, and the more space they have, the more space you might have in between those defenders. But you do want to make sure that your defenders stay connected through the voice that they have and the clarity and understanding of looking forward, inciting their target and communicating who their target is to the person inside and outside of them. And coming up as a line, making sure no one's shooting and leaving big gaps in there for people to exploit, for attackers to exploit. You can see there's a 10 and 15 in the backfield here, just for the purpose of this little one page. You can't tell, but they are in the backfield. So this is usually to cover kick space, especially with the game now. 50-22s an attacking weapon, and a big advantage if teams with good kickers can utilize good kickers to find a space in the backfield and win a 50-22. So that's why we've got our corner men here, just to look after that kick space in case they look down that channel. Means they can also cover the backfield as well, and they can be part of your counter-attack policies. Because they're back this deep as well, they can also see what's happening in front of them, so they can communicate to the wingers in the centers, who are usually outside of your big forwards, through the middle of the pack, middle of the field, and they can communicate inwards towards their teammates and defenders inside them as well. So they're the eyes in the backfield and big communicators, and they can have that big language. Speaking of big language, that could be, line speed or push, up and out, whatever that big call might be in terms, or you might have like a kill call, if teams are attacking back off an edge and your defense line is set, you might have a kill call to line speed that next couple of attackers coming through. So that might be your big talk that you have. So that's the big talk. The small talk, I like to say, can be between your actual defenders in the front line, whether where they can say, an example might be, a defender might say, push up a little bit tighter to me, or I've got that headgear. You've got the guy on his right or his left, or leave last man to me. So that small talk is between the players inside and outside of you. The big talk is what we're doing as a team. So that's something you can take into that as well. Just got a couple of little notes here. So around alignment, whether you're going to align inside or outside shoulder, that can depend on your team's strengths or the strength of your competition, or a mixture of both. Whether you're going line speed versus up and out, as you would have seen. Different teams that utilize line speed to challenge skill sets of other teams, or which you would have seen in New Zealand quite a lot, and probably been brought in by the All Blacks there to deal with the Irish attack is more holding space and coming up and drifting out and allowing the attack to come forward and reading those pitches as they come. There's the barge versus zero ruck. So the barge really is just a term that some of you may or may not have heard, but all it really is just a defender that's not the tackler, or could be the tackler if they've tackled and come back on side and onto their feet. Is just going through and being an absolute nuisance at that breakdown. You're either going to go through and at minimum be a nuisance and slow down the play for the attack, not give them that 2-second ball, 3-second, 4-second ball even, or you might even be at the start of a blitz where you go through and you're able to go over that ball, and you can get a couple of teammates to join you, and you can blitz over that ball and win that ball back through that breakdown. Or you can zero ruck, and that might depend on the circumstances in front of you. You think that you don't have the players to do that, or you might think that teams are beating you out wide, so you want players on feet, or you're getting penalized too much at the breakdown. It's not worth it. So it really depends on your circumstance. Jackal policy that I've written down there, it's just around. So jackal is just whoever that person is trying to steal that ball back at the breakdown of the opposition, of the attack. So some might say we only jackling outside of our 22, or you might say we're only jackling. We can turn jackling on and we can turn it off. That depends on the captain, or the defensive captain, or the coach from the sideline saying we're turning jackling on and turning it off. Or you might say that only certain players have a license to jackal. Not everyone, especially, and probably Sam Whitelock, there's an exception, but some tall players aren't always happy to bend all the way down and stick their head in dark places and pick up a ball. You might get penalized more oftentimes than not. So you might say, oh, only our number 7 and number 2, who are really good jacklers and have proven history, are able to do it. Everybody else, we're just going to barge, or we're just going to zero ruck from there. Okay. Hunter X Scout is just a little policy that I'll play a little video clip from the one and only Richie Harris next. We've got this up on our website as well. It's just something you can use around the roles and responsibilities of your line defenders. When someone makes a tackle, what do the persons inside and outside them do? So hunting usually only happens from the inside, so hunting being our jacklers, and that's because if you're hunting from the outside, especially if it's not really on, then you're leaving a space for the attack that's coming around the corner to utilize, and also it shortens your defensive line, means you might have less numbers to defend the attack that's coming forward. The X is just the tackler, so whether they're going to chop tackle, as in around the legs, and take them straight to ground, or it's a stack tackle, depending on what your policies might be. Scout stays out is really the person on the outside. If the tackle is made inside the X, and they're not involved directly, as in the player falls inside, they've had an in carry, then you don't need to worry about, the scout doesn't need to worry about coming in there. He can stay out, so he can see the pictures that are coming around the corner and staying out there. The jackal can get involved if there's an out carry from the ball carrier and the X chops him, and that ball carrier lands right in front of scout. There's daylight on the ball. It's clearly in front of the scout, and the scout has license to go down and grab that ball. So that could be a policy that you might have that you can use. Or if it's been a stack tackle, hasn't been taken quite to ground by the X, then the scout could go in and just assist that tackle and get double shoulders on, or hold the ball up for a stack. I'll just play this little clip here and it might make it a little bit easier to understand. Right, I'll jump back to that. And that's the great Richie Harris. Bit of defensive maestro there. Um, you can look at that video clip back on this. We do have a couple of different things you can look up on our YouTube channel, so you can click through these. Happy to provide these links if you just reach out to me, or you can follow these on our Auckland Rugby website. A couple other sites that you can look at. Obviously, YouTube's got a lot of great content creators at the moment. You've got the rugby site .com, which you can also look up, and they've got some awesome stuff, but that is sitting behind a paywall. The Rugby Toolbox is free for coaches here in New Zealand. Or you can reach out to your local club coach developer, or your school DOR, or you can reach out to us here at Auckland Rugby if you want us to actually take you through some of the stuff, and help you through building maybe your own philosophy as well. Last thing I'll finish on maybe is just a philosophy that's been used here in some of our teams higher up, just to sort of um, make it a bit simple to understand, a bit of a framework in which to analyze and refer their performance on the field back to and at training. So bang, work off the ball connection. You can use whatever words you want that's suitable for you. But with the bang, they're looking at the height of that collision, of that tackle height. Looking at the ball, obviously that's what we're trying to win back, and tackling under that ball, or obviously depending on the situation, tackling on the ball to stop the KBA. The barge here is once we're taking people to ground. If we completed that tackle, it's just going through and being an absolute nuisance. So we're looking back at the game, and we can say, you know, how was our tackle height? How was our management of the ball in that situation? Going barging over the ball, tackling on the ball, tackling on the ball. Oops, sorry. And then we can look at the barge as well. And how did we do? Did we actually go in, make an absolute nuisance of it? Did we win ball back by making sure that we barged through those rucks? Walking off the ball, the BRG there is back in the game. So how quickly we get up off the ground. So if we're off our feet, we're out of the game. So making sure we bounce back onto our feet and rejoining our defensive line. Eyes is really important. You know, you can always get caught ball watching or ruck watching and not seeing at the pictures that are changing in front of you. That's really important to have our head on a swivel for our defenders to make sure they can communicate that back into the people inside them and potentially outside them as well. But usually inside, because that's usually where the play is coming from. So communication, obviously, as well, is really important in terms of talking to the person inside and outside of you, so you can get good clarity on, you know, your eyes on target, who you have, what kind of line speed we're going at, what kind of tackle we're looking to create, and on how we're looking to defend this certain situation. So clarity is really important. That comes from eyes up, eyes forward, also the communication that happens, and obviously we can only defend if we are on our feet. So making sure we're BIG or back in the game. Connection as well. So that comes is more around what we're doing physically as a team and where ours are at. So connection, we can look at making sure we're staying square. So if we're showing our backs or showing shoulders, we're giving attackers a shoulder to attack to. So obviously wrong footing the defenders. So making sure they stay square. So make sure their hips are facing the try lines of the opposition so that they can defend both ways and they can make sure they can track their attackers that they're trying to defend. Staying connected, that's not only physically, with making sure we connect with each other in terms of the spacing that we have. Spacing is really important. Obviously, you know, we might have everything else right, but if our spacing is not right, we could get caught on the outside or we could get caught on the inside if attackers are attacking spaces that were left too big or too big gaps, or we're too tight in and we're leaving space on the outside. So making sure we're connected, not only physically in our spacing, but staying connected with our voice, with our eyes, and with each other. The BIF is another acronym, so that stands for ball in flight. So obviously, let's not get dummied. Make sure we wait till the ball's in flight before we don't get caught offside, so we can line speed from there. But also, that gives us a cue. You know, once the ball's in flight, we can come off the line, making sure that we know the ball's going. So they can only change direction. You know, if they grab that ball in their hands and move it with their feet or kick it off their feet. With the ball's in flight, that gives us a license to go. Make sure we can not get that intercept, you can win that collision and that contact with that tackle. Okay. I was going to show this with everything that we just learned. Maybe just have another quick look at what's happening there. Maybe you might look at it with a new set of eyes in terms of what you're watching here. When you look back at the defense, so you might have a look at that in the backfield. So you got James Lowe dropping back a little bit there. Not so much for Ireland. Well, good. So Just last couple of words is make it yours, make it your team's, whatever your defensive policies or your defensive philosophy and framework is going to be. So we'll share a couple of things, small things here. Take some of that and make it your own or add it to your kitty. Keep it simple is probably an underrated message. So we can have a lot of different strategies and key things to focus on. But like we see in a lot of courses, keep it as simple as you can. And why that's important is because if it's simple enough for them to understand and be able to reiterate and have clarity and alignment on it, then they can execute it. There's nothing worse than having all the best laid plans in the world that no one understands. When they're on the field, everyone's in ones and twos and not quite understanding and not quite aligned, right? So keep it simple, make it yours, but also make defense part of training, value it, understand that it has a big part to play in your team's heart, it is half of our game. It's not just attack, we're always on defense as well, but also weave it into the other parts of your game as well. So understanding that it's part of turnover and counter attack if we're defending really well. It's part of your kick strategy and your chase lines and things like that. So thank you for taking the time. If you've sat through this in your own time, and if you do have any questions, just reach out to us here at Auckland Rugby, joe.tutawake@aucklandrugby.co.nz, or reach out to your club or school coach developer or DOR. They can put you in touch with us and see how we can support you. Thank you for all that you're doing for your spaces. Good luck and good skills for the rest of the season. Cheers.